South Alabama, baby. We're laying the points or what?
Jaguars. Only a couple teams with the Jaguars as their nickname.
Did you see the sheet? Are we live, by the way? Sorry. I was waiting for the hands. Sometimes I miss the hands.
Gotta
He's
go
like, yeah. Well, look at this. We are back on a Thursday, ready for Thursday night football on the Awesemo Betting Show. We welcome you into the Awesemo Odds channel. Myself, Ben Rasa, Jordan is producing. BetMGM is powering the show. And you out there on the chat, of course, you can hit that thumbs up button, please, if you haven't already. And also make sure you're subscribed here to the Awesemo Odds channel. We've been promising some futures for a little bit. So I think at some point today, we're going to get to them. We have a pretty big game, at least where I am in my neck of the woods, Rasa, but it's a primetime event. So unfortunately, everybody is now subjected to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I heard you mention before the show college football tonight. So that tells me that you have at least one, if not both of your eyeballs on another game outside of the pro game tonight. What's up?
I don't know about that. Maybe a glance. You know, it's a great sports night. Got game 5 as well in the Diamond. I will be watching a little Dodgers Giants, but
will you really?
Yeah, I don't watch a ton of baseball, but I am interested to see that. Not sure I'm going to bet it, but I'll be honest. Bucks, Eagles, I think it's a pretty interesting game. I'm pretty excited to see it. Just a different style. Certainly Tampa is the champs and trying to get all the information I can because I know that they're going to be a relevant team all season. So we'll see what you guys can do. You are at home on a short week. Only a touchdown spread, and there's a lot to break down here.
Hit that again. Hit us up with your lock it up. We're going to get that before we always get out of every show here. So I'm sure Bloomfield is already in the house now, ready to go. Some people already waiting to fire on their lock it ups. What is the biggest element before we even get into your play tonight? Side total. I have a couple of props. I know you do as well. What's the biggest thing that you look at for these Thursday night games now that we've had a couple under our belts?
So certainly, I mean, obviously, I think for any game who's playing, you know, the injury situation, you don't have as much time to recover. Short weeks. I do think it marginalizes some of the bad teams. I'm going to take Jacksonville as a situation. They played pretty well in Cincy in that game and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I do think ultimately once they get going, it's just football. Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Friday, it doesn't matter. These are teams. We know what the Bucs are going to do. We know what the Eagles are going to try to do. And then it's, can you develop a plan of attack to go against what I think we all know, and I use this theme often, is the toughest run defense in the National Football League with Tampa. And that is, to me, the storyline to break down.
Tampa Bay itself.
Yes,
and just how good this team could be. And if people are really buying into, I think ahead of tonight, that when you look at these two teams, especially the Bucs offense, they should be able to shred most defenses.
I mean, they obviously have ample opportunities to do that. So it's a situation, you know, again, I don't think being on Thursday means a whole lot for that. I think we just know that Jalen Hurts is a wild card. He has the ability to do things that 80-90% of the quarterbacks cannot do. And maybe that's something that can cause Tampa some problems. You know, we've seen them struggle at times, but really the only time they were in serious trouble was against a Rams team that obviously deploys a wildly different style than what we'll see tonight with Philly.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is how fast things pick up. And it's been something we've hit, I feel like, every Thursday now, where you take advantage of the short week, first half specifically. This is the biggest first half that I can remember since we started doing this show this year. This is the biggest first half total that we've had, or at least we've talked about, 26.5. And I just, as much as it's going to be an easy pathway for both teams and really both quarterbacks to throw the football, I still am going to rely on what we've normally seen, I think more often than not, which is just a slow start, which is just teams kind of feeling themselves out on this Thursday night. even if it means a concerted effort to go against what would be reason for the Philadelphia Eagles, let's say, and a couple of longer drives. Look, it's one game, it's prime time, 6-7 minute drive with a turnover, a missed field goal, a punting instead of trying a 56-yarder, things along a mistake that gets made. We see this a lot in the first half. So that's where I think I'm going. And it's contrary, right, to what a lot of people believe. But I really like, once again, Thursday night, going under that first half.
I'm going to push back on that. I mean, I do think we've seen a lot of these games start slow and then speed up. I know from personally, that Colts Ravens game was the game I liked the under, and you liked the first half under. The first half under got there easily, and it did not. It ended up going over for the game, which was really disappointing for me. It went to overtime and whatnot. But I do think a lot of teams have a feeling out process. And then there's always the question of, when you have a team like Tampa Bay, who is just offensively, I mean, what is there to say? They can score in so many different ways. They're hanging, they just hung 45 on Miami. Will Philly be more content to try to control time of possession to shorten the game? That is the question I think we have to ask. But it's a lot more difficult to do that when you're not doing it with the running game. That's my biggest concern. Against a team like Kansas City, you're able to do that because they can't stop the run. With Tampa, you're really trying to exploit them through the air. So it's kind of a contrasting style in that regard.
Here's the good news, Ben Rasa. The Philadelphia Eagles don't run the football.
They can't run it.
No. They either can't or they refuse to. But a lot of what they do is quick throws. If it's screens, if it's swings, if it's quick slants, crossing, they try to get the ball out fast. Even the RPOs are kind of mandated for Jalen Hurts to make a decision fast. And then if he hasn't handed the ball off, get rid of that ball as fast as possible. So I think what actually happens is that the Eagles are moving the ball on the ground per se. It's just not design runs. And I think the biggest thing is the ball hitting the ground, right? Like that's going to kill first half and really unders is a lot of throws, especially like downfield throws. Ball hits the ground, clock stops. You get another opportunity to reload and throw at 7 or 8 guys who could get downfield on both teams. So that's kind of what I'm banking on, to your point, is that the Eagles stay in their lane of quick throws, get the ball out fast, 6-7 yards maybe, but also a really good possibility of a guy getting stopped for -2 or 3 yards on a quick screen. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in my play and banking on the fact that the Eagles won't run the football, but throw to kind of run the football.
Well, the Eagles are not running the football. That's just not going to happen. I think Jalen Hurts is a different story. Maybe he can, but that's a totally different dynamic. I do think what they'll do is, it's kind of like you hear this and announcers talk about the extension of the run. These little gimmicky passes that are basically running plays because they're such high completions.
Right.
And I think we could see Gainwell and I think Miles Sanders to an extent get involved in those type of touches, because if you're trying to run up the middle, I've referenced it, but just to put context, the Buccaneers are allowing 2.9 yards per rushing attempt. That is number one in the NFL. We have shorted running back after running back, starting with Ezekiel Elliott on opening Thursday night. And basically every week, teams the Patriots didn't even really attempt to run the ball against this Buccaneers team. And I think Philly will follow suit. I would be really shocked if they say, you know what, we're going to try to establish a running game in this.
Which means now that we've kind of established even if we disagree, and I don't know if you're pivot 180 on the first half to the point where maybe you're going over or you're just staying away from that number.
Yeah, I'm more indifferent. I definitely am not looking to bet the over. I really have no feel on exactly I think the Eagles are the team that will dictate the tempo one way or another. I just worry if Tampa gets the ball first and they march down, does it immediately devolve into a back and forth? What we saw against Kansas City to a lesser extent, where Hurts is really all over the place, throwing it wildly. That's going to lead to a lot of points one way or another.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. Kansas City wasn't able to stop anything on any level, and Tampa Bay, we've already agreed, is basically, before the kickoff even happens tonight, has reduced the Eagles to a one-dimensional offense. So
very true. No, very true. I do think Tampa's secondary, between being banged up and simply not that good, is vulnerable, but that's more over the top. Again, you're not going to methodically work down the field like that.
No, there are injuries definitely abound here that are important. And the biggest one on the Eagles side isn't necessarily an injury. It's just an absence. And that's their all-world right tackle in Lane Johnson, who's out. And look, small sample size. It's the equivalent of per 36 minutes, right? Like that stat in the NBA. Dude, there's a reason why you're only playing 10 minutes. Now, for DFS, I think you can extrapolate things along those lines. But if you're banking on somebody in a small sample size to really matter when it comes to impacting a game on a larger scale, you kind of need to see it. I think this is a game where the Eagles' offensive line, without a guy like Lane Johnson, already down 2 other starters, they get swallowed up by that front. And I'm thinking that it's probably going to have a major impact on how soon the Eagles just hit the abort button, eject button, and start, to your point, having Jalen Hurts running around crazy and saying, all right, we're going to put the ball in your hands and you do whatever you can to keep us in this game, which isn't going to work.
I mean, yeah, it's limited options against a team this good. Especially if you're not able to stop them. Now, maybe they can get some pressure on Brady and maybe he's limited, but I worry a little bit about where we're at with that. So I guess where I go is if we can get this game plan right and we can get this game script right, who in the player prop world benefits from this? Is it Devontae Smith? Is it Miles Sanders out of the backfield catching the ball? Is it another playmaker? Is it Jalen Hurts himself? Like, how do we put this into actual bets tonight? Because I'll be honest, I don't love this either side. I think a spread of 1 touchdown is about right here. I'm not really looking to get exposure to either side of the game with a straight team.
Yeah, I think it was easier on Monday night to look at Baltimore at home in a little disarray and how vulnerable they were. And the Colts with a quarterback who was playing much better than their record saying, oh, come on, I'll take the 7 on the road. Now, we always have the benefit of hindsight, et cetera, et cetera. But here it's almost flipped. And I'm with you. I think this is a perfect opportunity to live bet the spread, see what happens in the first quarter. You may want to jump on the total as well, but I would honestly suggest to people, for me at least, to go under the 26.5. If you do like that 52.5, that's a different conversation. But I think Brady, honestly, stands. Oh, actually, you know what? There's one guy that I think benefits the most. But real quick, let me just throw something back at you. And already, while the rushing prop has moved up for Brady a full yard. But let me just throw one thing to keep in mind here. And you know that I can't resist whenever we have a narrative that I can throw out. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to get to a couple of these lock it ups, including Shelton suggesting an anytime TD. But Tom Brady has mentioned multiple times, you're up in New York, you know how much it got under Brady's skin to lose to Eli Manning 2 times and how much he always referenced it and talked about losing those Super Bowls. Same thing with the Eagles. It's not the Super Bowl. It's not even a playoff game, but wouldn't it be like the Brady Belichickian thing to come back and almost in your own mind exercise a demon or two and pound the shit out of the Philadelphia Eagles tonight just to feel a little bit better about you losing sleep over that? There's nobody on the Eagles that you can point to and say is extra motivated. And arguably the best football player in the history of the game is added motivation to this game tonight, Ben. That's why if I had to play a side, I'd take the Bucs up to 9, even though I'm not.
I mean, yeah, I don't think Tampa, if they can kill them, they certainly will. There's no doubt about that. It's just going to be a matter of Philadelphia, to me, is one of the teams that we really don't, at least I don't have a great feel on how good they are. If you told me that they're a legitimate threat to Dallas in the East, okay, I think you can make that argument. If you told me that they might be the worst team in the East, I also think you could make that. I have seen signs of both. And I thought a win in Carolina was obviously a good data point to them. But at the same time, that they also have looked at times a little overmatched. I will say, though, so far, when you really look, the Eagles have played 5 games. I respect 4 of those opponents, and they beat Atlanta soundly, who's the worst of them. So maybe they're just a product of a difficult schedule right now. Tampa, though, is, of course, in that category. This is a very difficult team. I like the player props more than I like a side.
There's one guy that I think, to answer your question, and we'll get into the specifics of it, and we're going to have to mention this Brady rushing prop at some point before we get out of here. But the one guy that I think, and this isn't even on my list as far as on the radar, although I did play this already, The one guy I think benefits from the game plan that we've laid out, the matchups that we've talked about, is Leonard Fournette. 3 straight games for the Philadelphia Eagles, one running back has gone 95 plus on the ground. You probably didn't even know Chuba Hubbard went over a buck unless you had him on DFS or hit a player prop because it was a quiet over 100 yards. But people are doing whatever they want to this Philadelphia Eagles front on the ground. And Leonard Fournette's prop is 64.5. I don't need 95. I just need 65. And I think even with smaller volume than the guys in Hubbard and Elliott and Clyde Edwards-Helaire in between, there's just the opportunity to get runs, especially we know if Tampa, as we expect, is going to be up. So that's where I would begin with somebody who I think can truly benefit from the game script and also has, yes, 64.5 may seem high, but the last 3 weeks really isn't that high for me.
No, I have no problem. I mean, Leonard Fournette right now, projecting according to the line, 13.5 rushing attempts is his over-under, and it's -110 on both sides. And this is a guy that's really taken a step forward in that backfield. I mean, Ronald Jones, God, at times he shows flashes, but obviously he seems to get himself into trouble more often than not with the fumbles. And in a lot of games, it looks like he's truly taken a back seat to Fournette here. You know, he had 20 carries in that game in New England. It was pouring. I get that. Against Miami, though, I'm actually really encouraged. He had 12 carries in that game, and they won it by 28 points. So they really had no need. They were gearing down altogether late. I know that leads to more rushing in general, but Fournette was a guy that didn't even need to be in there late in the game. So if this stays more competitive than that, and I expect that it will, I have no problem. He's a guy you could also combo because he really is catching a lot of balls. And you've talked about that. If you want to incorporate his receiving, he's had 3 or more receptions in every single game this year. So a true do-it-all back right now for Tampa.
It's one that jumped out when you asked that question about who would benefit the most. Let me flip it back to you, though, and I'm sure that's incorporating a prop for you as well.
So I'm going to go it's not aggressive, I don't think, but it is plus money, and I'm on the wrong side of it in terms of what people think because the line keeps moving away from me. Receptions, Miles Sanders, 3.5. I like the over. It's up to plus 125 now. And I still believe that what you talked about at the beginning of this show could hold true in the sense that they say, okay, we want to get Miles Sanders the ball, 10 to 15 times tonight. We can allocate that any way we want. Why would you allocate that into carries in this situation? To me, you would really want to split it where you're giving him 5 to 7 targets and maybe, 7 to 10 carries in a perfect world. And I just really think that against a team like Tampa, we saw Myles Gaskin last week absolutely gut them through the air. And I know Gainwell can do this as well, but Miles Sanders can catch the ball. And we saw last week that Hurts was more than content to give him some chances. He turned it in. I don't know how this is possible, but he had 5 catches for 6 yards. That's interesting, but it doesn't matter for this. I'll take 1-yard receptions all day. Over 3.5 at plus 125 is good enough for me.
Yeah, you mentioned Gainwell, and I think that there is a pathway to success for both. It's combining what you've laid out with Miles Sanders, and then it's like the anti-backup bet that Lofty always hits us with, where it's like, this guy's not going to touch the ball. Normally he doesn't until we all bet it and then mush it. But in this case, I think Gainwell is like that 180 where, and I'm going to present this scenario where Dallas Goedert does not play tonight on the COVID-19 list. You're down a target at the tight end spot. It's not going to go to Jalen Reagor. It's not going to go to Quez Watkins. It's going to go to safe options when you're not taking risks downfield. And I think both running backs stand to benefit here to where I wouldn't be surprised if you got 4+ receptions, which is over both of their totals right now for both Gainwell and Sanders. So I'll see your Sanders and I'll tail Gainwell as well, because I think both of these guys are going to be heavily involved in that quick, short, get the ball out fast passing attack, especially when they realize, and they'll realize early, they ain't going to be able to run the football.
It makes sense. Like I said, I really thought what the Patriots did was smart. They said, you know what? We're not even going to waste time with Harris in the backfield. We're going to try to spread you out and do what we do because this is just stupid to try this. And I think that the Eagles I'm not saying never run the ball, but man, you really have backs that are dynamic. These guys can catch the ball. Why wouldn't you keep Hurts, clean, quick releases, get it to Sanders, get it to Gainwell, and then see. And then you've got guys like Devontae Smith over the top, things of that nature. But to me, the backs are going to play a serious role in the passing game tonight. And that is one of the areas that I'm kind of honing in on in my prop sheets tonight.
There's an element to that, and it kind of flips to a prop that I've played, and I'm amazed that when I played this October 13th at 4:16 p.m. Eastern time, that I was actually behind value. I thought it was going to drop. Instead, it's moved the other way, and I think some of that is just the fear or concern that Dallas Goedert won't be out there and that there's going to be like 3 targets he normally gets dissipated or disseminated maybe elsewhere, whatever the word would be, the D word would be. But Jalen Reagor is set as far as receiving yards. Now, this has moved up from 38.5 to 40.5. It's now down to 39.5, depending, right? And looking at it now, we have it here 39.5. Ben, he's got 33 combined receiving yards over the last 2 games on 6 total targets. He had 5 looks this last game, caught 3 balls for only 24 yards, and dropped 1 that you could tell everybody around him, including Jalen Hurts, was like, are you freaking kidding me? This number seems ridiculous. And he's not even like Quez Watkins, who at 40.5 could get you that on 1 big play downfield. They're throwing to Reagor quick off the line of scrimmage, in some cases right on the line of scrimmage. I'm sorry, but 39.5 is way too high. And yeah, it's minus 115 at BetMGM, but I'm hitting that hard.
What can I say? I'm a Jalen Reagor truther. I like Jalen Reagor.
I apologize. I'm sticking a knife right in your back.
It's all right. I mean, this is a
knock
guy
on TCU.
That's right. TCU product right there. And I do see flashes. The Eagles, I'll tell you what, this is not a real stat, but they have to lead the league in touchdowns called back because the receiver stepped out of bounds. Yep. Rager's had one. Smith's had one. It's ridiculous. These lines would look a lot different with that.
They have 14 points off the board for RPO penalties.
It's really
that
have
gone
something
to receivers as well. Yeah, it's crazy.
He's been I see where you're going. And certainly, in a game with Kansas City, he was non-existent. 5 targets. Didn't do much with them against Carolina. I do think it's there. I'm going to try to split the difference with you. I certainly don't think you should back both of these props because it's a very thin margin in the middle. If I was going to do something with Jalen Reagor, I would actually go over his longest reception at 17.5. I know you don't like that, but to me, this is still a guy that has some ability down the field. If you're giving him bubble screens, you always have a chance to get over the top there. And honestly, Dan and Chad, I appreciate this. It's true. That is not a prop that I bet a lot, but we've had a lot of success this year with this longest receptions prop. So I think Jalen Reagor is the guy tonight that to me is a catalyst. He could go very quiet, but to me, that'll impact why try to get over 39.5 when I can try to get over 17.5 there. So give me that. I know you're on the other side. Good luck to you, sir.
Well, it's not that I'm on the other side. I'm staying away from his longest reception.
Yes.
And I'm just going under anything from 36.5 higher. Like 36.5 would be my floor there. But here's the thing, and let me push back because this hit, now granted it was a screen pass, but who the hell cares? This hit in the first 3 minutes of Monday night, Carson Wentz's longest completion.
Yep.
So why not, if that's the case, now this is a big number, so maybe we stay away from it. 38.5 for Jalen Hurts. The likelihood of Watkins, Reagor, to your point, if you're going to play longest reception, and Devontae Smith, any one of those guys going over really 39 plus on one grab, you have 3 separate guys who can get you that downfield or turn, as you mentioned, a quick bubble screen into something. Any interest there going over the 38.5 for Hurts?
I don't mind it. I just would say this, and you kind of got there right where you're working through it. That's a big jump. That's a 20-yard difference for what I'm talking about. You need a real big play. There's going to be plays down the field for Smith, I think for Reagor, maybe for Quez Watkins as well. That's a long, reception. Can it happen? Absolutely. But I feel a lot more comfortable in someone like Jalen Reagor having an opportunity for easily a 20-yard catch, something in that nature. So I get it with Hurts. It's a pretty lofty number. We're almost pushing a 40-yard completion, and that's really a big one.
You realize how bad that secondary is, though,
It
right?
is bad. And that's, again, it speaks to why I think Jalen Rager can get over this number. I would assume that Devontae Smith is going to command all their attention, and rightfully so. He is the alpha on the outside. But Philadelphia, I think they're the much more difficult side to predict, which leads to more inefficiencies. On Tampa side, we know they're going to throw, they're going to spread you out. There's a million different guys that they can go to. I don't like those props nearly as much just because of the randomness of whose turn it is this week.
Give me one more player prop to look at. The chat is buzzing with some plays here that we're going to hit, including the Razorbacks. I know Nick, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Angel, thoughts or sides tonight on college. So we're going to hit that. We have 2 futures to look at before we lock it up. A very ambitious next couple of minutes, to say the least. But give me one more player prop that you're looking at, and then I'll slide this Brady rushing thing in, and we'll move on.
So let's see. I mean, I would like to look at maybe like a guy to find the end zone. I do think of all the guys that I looked at, even though I've mentioned some of these other players, to me, Devontae Smith, you got a number at plus 150 for an anytime touchdown scorer in a game like this. Feels like he should have pretty good chances, honestly, if they can put up some points. I mean, who else is it? Is it Ertz at plus 190? Rager? I feel pretty comfortable that Devontae Smith is still going to command a lot. So am I looking to do that? No, it's more secondary for me. But if you think that the Eagles can move the ball through the air, we still have to think that Devontae Smith is garnering, the lion's share of targets.
It's just amazing that he's on really pace to only have about 4, maybe 5 touchdowns at all this year, also including a really good season. And there's just the red zone targets. A lot have got, we've seen Ertz. I saw this on the chat, and I'm going to agree that if I were to look at the Venn diagram of value and likelihood of scoring a touchdown, Shelton sees it at plus 320 for Kenny Gainwell. And I just think he sneaks. Like, he's a sneaky guy that they're not going to move away from. Even if Miles Sanders, we've seen this where Miles Sanders had a big run and then another run, and then that was it. They took him out of the game because they're still going back to Gainwell. So if there was an Eagle that I would look at outside of Devontae Smith, plus 320, there's a pretty good shot he's going to be on the field. 2-minute drill, red zone, areas that they're going to garner looks and a scoring opportunity. So I would throw him in there too.
The thing I like about this, particularly with this game, is I see almost no way that Tampa, we know Tampa's going to score. They're going to put up some points. And I think the Eagles have a reasonable shot to keep pace. But I like when you've got an offense like that, I think you're going to be less prone to take field goals because you kind of know we got to put the ball in the end zone here. And it gives you additional equity for these anytime touchdown scorers. Brady INT, lock it up. I'm not going to do that, but I don't mind that he's taking some chances. Maybe you get, it's at a half. So basically, will he throw a pick? Yes or no? No is juiced. It's up to minus 155. So it would be yes or pass, but that's more of an exotic prop, not one that I'm really honing in on.
I have to mention this really quick before, and I mentioned Brady's rushing yards. Look, he's at a half. It's juiced to the over. It's at 1.5. Sorry, now it's juiced to the over. But he's gone over 2 yards in the last 4 games. It was week 1 against Dallas that he didn't take an attempt at all. But Ben, as you mentioned on my show last night, it's always the threat of the needle.
Yeah, you need a scram. In all his games so far, besides the first one, Brady's actually had a sizable scramble for him, more than 5 yards. If you get that, you win. If not, if you just get a quarterback sneak of some sort, you're in danger of losing that via kneel down. So, you never know. Okay. Obviously, he's in a different category altogether. We've been talking about quarterbacks that don't run that can. He's a quarterback that doesn't run because he can't. So maybe you get one, but he's in the Phillip Rivers of like the max yards he could even conceivably get is like 10.
I did a hit yesterday, and I was talking about this as a more long shot prop, and it was at plus 750. It's now down to plus 550. It's moved significantly. Antonio Brown for 2 or more touchdowns. And it's basically
Again.
somebody in this offense. If it's Brown, if it's Godwin, if it's Mike Evans, somebody's going to be the odd man out and have a bad cornerback or nickelback on them and should be able to exploit for days. We also have one of the smartest players that's ever thrown the football there to take advantage of that. I know Antonio Brown had a big week last week, but especially in the slot and moving around a lot, I got him at plus 750. It's now down to plus 550. It's a risk. I know it's a risk. I'm not locking it up. I'm just saying that it moved 200 points.
Hey, no, I mean, that's good. You've done your job. It's obviously a very low probability hit, but I do believe you've got the right side of that. They just have so many touchdowns that are up for grabs. But I will say, Mr. B and Chad, Brady under 2.5 passing TDs. Interesting. I do think Philly's secondary at times has looked pretty good. They're only giving up 6.2 yards per passing attempt. That's 4th in the league. I think part of that's skewed because they haven't played super prolific passing attacks the whole time. I mean, a couple of those teams for sure, but Carolina and the Niners and some of those teams, not exactly that. So I respect that. And I also want to say it's good to see everyone in chat. We're going to have these shows. We're going to be bringing some new features to these shows. If you guys are new and you're just stopping in and you're enjoying what you're seeing and you want some more and you want some quick VODs, some betting picks, hit that subscribe to the channel, notification bell, supports us, get you guys in the door early here on the Awesemo Odds channel. Really appreciate it. And it's really exciting to see more and more people tuning in. This is one of my favorite shows all week.
I love it, man. I look forward to it. And it's informative as well. And people, as you see, constantly coming back, thanking us on Twitter, thanking us in the chat.
Yeah, it's been good. We're going to keep it rolling. Yeah. It has been good, though. I've been really, really happy to walk through these Thursday games with you.
All right, let's look at a couple of lock it ups on chat, and then we'll hit a futures or two, lock it up and get out of here. And this is stuff away from the game that we didn't hit already. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything from Shelton earlier. Shelton hit Razorbacks, lock it up, got in at -3, currently see it at -4.5. And you're right. This Arkansas schedule, like they deserve an extra 10 rankings just for their schedule.
Yeah, they have a brutal schedule in the SEC. And yeah, we'll get to some college football. There's a couple games tonight that I'm going to give you this show. But anytime you're beating those closing lines, that is important. And in these props, as we've seen, you mentioned the Antonio Brown one. I'm hoping that the running backs will take some money in terms of the receptions props, because you want to get that closing line value as much as you can.
All right. Before we lock it up, we teased this last week, or really earlier in the week, I should say, just kind of hitting a couple of futures in the NFL. We're 5 weeks in, about to start week 6 tonight. So it's definitely a good opportunity to take advantage of anything where there's still value. And I think a lot of people think, oh, well, the season started, maybe it's off the board. No, things are fluctuating left and right, especially at the MVP spot. I'm going to let you start here because you have an interesting one. I will get to the Offensive Rookie of the Year as well, but I'm just curious. You and I are on a different name, but I'm curious where and why you begin with your MVP pick.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously right now, and I'll listen, it's all about the odds when you're looking at futures. It's fun dabbling. You got to find the right numbers. And I think the most likely MVP winner right now is Josh Allen. And that's what the books think. And then you've got Dak and Kyler and Herbert, rightfully so. But I do think that Lamar, who's already won this award at 12-1, is kind of interesting just because he can do things and he can put up stat lines that other players simply cannot do. And I think it's probably a pretty low probability. But if, say, they get on a run and Baltimore really makes a push and Lamar is legitimately going like what we saw against Indy video game numbers, he's going to get himself into that conversation. Now, if Josh Allen and the Bills secure home field and they're just rolling, he's going to be very difficult to stop, but you're getting almost 3 times the payout on someone like Lamar. And the way he's constructed with this team, he's do it all. I do like that. I'd say it's very unlikely, but I was stunned to see him north of 10-1.
North of 10-1 is, I understand.
It's a little heavy. Where are you going? Where are you drawn to on the MVP board?
Same guy or same number, I should say. Different guy, same number. This is this is like live betting a team that's down 13-14, like Baltimore at plus 1,200 at one point. Aaron Rodgers is down at the bottom when it comes to yardage. He hasn't thrown for 100 touchdowns, and the defense is porous at best. But he's not going anywhere. Derek Carr, Justin Herbert. Like, remember when Derek Carr was the MVP 3 weeks into the season? These guys, they fluctuate. And Lamar, I think, is of the volatile people that have been up and down. Lamar is definitely more on a stable side. And I love that plus 1,200. But I'm also thinking Packers win this division. Aaron Rodgers only really needs about 2.5 weeks to close a stat gap against anybody. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about, well, Aaron Rodgers is back. And we're talking about Aaron Rodgers sitting at plus 450, where Josh Allen is now. So I'm buying super low right now on a product/commodity that has a narrative behind him and also doesn't need more than like 2 weeks to close a stat gap for yardage, touchdowns, or limited picks.
I get it. I do think there's an element with these awards of fatigue, though. Rodgers did win last year. I think if he's even close stat-wise with guys like Josh Allen, and the Bills have done something they haven't done in a long time, it's going to him. There's no doubt. And Lamar is more in the Rodgers category. He also has one. So
sure.
There's, that's the old LeBron could have won MVP for like 15 straight years, but he didn't.
Here's the thing, though. Real quick, can I add this?
Yeah, of course.
What if it's assumed that Rodgers is done in Green Bay and it's like this, well, we can't give him the most improved player. What if it's the opposite of fatigue and it's more of that gives him the edge over Josh Allen and the Bills, thinking, hey, man, this Steph Curry or whoever it may be, he's going to be in the league forever. Let's get Rodgers one on his way out in Green Bay. Is that over the top? Am my brain fried?
I mean, I would say that if he didn't have one, but he's already got 3 of them. Like, so I think that they looked and not like, oh, we got to get this guy. It's like the Oscars too. Like, oh, this person's never won and this is their last chance. Right. Well, if they've got a bunch of statues already, what do they care? So
fair enough.
It's fun to look at these things. I don't take them overly seriously because you're locking up money for a long time. And I think there's easier ways to churn, but it's fun to talk about it and take a peek at this point in the season.
All right, real quick before we lock it up. Oh no, the offensive rookie of the year is also something that I think is interesting here, especially because of the direction you've gone with Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I'll talk about that real quick. Then I want to break down Noah. I see that teaser and
yeah, I saw that too.
We're going to talk about that and lock it up here. I just think that Jamar Chase is possibly having a, for rookie receivers, really up there type season, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. And when you look at everybody else, all the other quarterbacks, they're either in murky situations or their team is so bad that their stats are really struggling in the sense of like, Trevor Lawrence. If the Jaguars only win 1 game or something, it's going to be tough. Kyle Pitts has had a slow start to the year. Don't really see him getting involved. Najee and the Steelers, I get it. But Jamar Chase, if the Bengals make the playoffs or even flirt with the playoffs, and he's putting up touchdowns like this, you're still getting almost 4-1. And I know he's not a quarterback, but he is going to be a focal point of that offense, barring something unforeseen. And I think I like him over Mac Jones, particularly if the Patriots really crash and burn this year.
It's a great number too. So the point adds up. Value is still there. It's a tough award, I think, especially if you're not a quarterback, but I like the pathway to it.
This year, particularly, we really haven't seen a quarterback, in my opinion, hit the ground running and really take it by storm. Like, you're right. Mac Jones looks okay. Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to be fine. And Fields, he's got some time to develop, but none of these guys to me are in the, oh, wow, this guy from the start, from the jump is dominating the league. And Jamar Chase has been unbelievable so far.
All right, my friend. This is juicy. I thought I was inundating you like to the point where you muted me on Slack with all these crazy, wacky teasers. It's coming at some point. You're going to be changing your name. Noah Young, 6.5 point teaser. All right, let's look at this real quick. I've got time if you've got time. The Dallas Cowboys busted up now to plus 2.5. Jags moved up to plus 10. Chiefs brought down to a pick 'em. Essentially, although you need to win, no tie there. Rams -4, which is a tough number. Bills have been moved through again, +1. So we've moved through 0, probably more unnecessarily than necessary for Dallas and Buffalo. At the same time, those other lines, and look, any opportunity you can move that Rams line down, I'm good with it. And then the Jags and the Chiefs really are helping you as well. What's your overall opinion on that?
So anytime with teasers, yeah, you got to kind of take it one by one. And I will say some of those teams are in my personal teasers this week. I like the Rams going down and the Jags going up. The one team I'd have the biggest problem with is Dallas. You really shouldn't try to cross 0 in your teasers. That's kind of a no-no. You're just giving up a little too much equity usually, and you're not getting a great number like Dallas. If they lose by a field goal, you still lose. If they win, the chances that they didn't cover, you're protecting 3, but a lot of times they would have covered that spread outright in that situation with the 6.5. So I like the core of that teaser. I have no problem with it. Dallas would be the one, even though I don't mind Dallas in the game. Moving it to 2.5 is not the best number in the world. That's all I'll say.
And then Das Diggity, I need Bernard with 2 touchdowns. Anytime Mike Evans, anytime Sanders bet 50 cents to pay out $4.50.
Hey,
that's a hell of a parlay right there.
My friend, if you hit that, we better see you tomorrow victory lapping in this chat, because that is all century worthy. If you knock that one down, I will be rooting for that. Hey, what's the worst that can happen? You lose a couple quarters. It's a fun sweat, if nothing else.
Absolutely, though, and especially from the sweat element of it, because you know that it's going to be probably the more obvious than not. All right, I'm going to circle back. Again, as much as I've hit this and we've talked about it and it's been successful, I told you already, I love the under 26.5 first half. You being just indifferent has pushed this to the back burner. I'm going to fire back at you with my lock it up. We're going under 39.5 receiving yards for your boy, TCU's finest, Jalen Reagor. Lock it up.
Really no respect on this show. You see what I do with chat? Again, I have and put in
this
the comments,
is just on the air.
I want in these comments on this video, if you are team Jalen Reagor or you're with Aton and not a fan, let us know where you fall on
all
Jalen
Eagles
Reagor
fans are on my side. I can tell you
that's
that.
probably true. I am not an Eagles fan, so I don't know. But again, just before I drop mine, I want to say thanks to everyone who hopped in here. Hit that subscribe button and that like button. It really helps us out. We've talked about this NFL game. My favorite prop is Miles Sanders over 3.5 at +125. If you are looking for some fun action or you want to just kind of get a little egregious tonight, there are a couple of college football games. They're bad games. I do think if you're going to bet one, though, look at South Alabama. They're a 3-point favorite at home. It's been a weird year for them. They've won some really close games. They've lost 2 straight games by 2 points each. I don't really know what to make of that, but they take on a Georgia Southern team who right now isn't doing much of anything. The team struggles across the field. They want to run the ball. They give up a lot of points, particularly through the air. I think South Alabama at home will do enough tonight to kind of stifle this team. So we don't know a lot about these teams. If you want to have some fun, though, lay the points with the Jaguars. So I'm going to lock it up with South Alabama.
At JazzRaz DFS, at Shander Show for me. Thanks to Jordan for producing. Thanks to BetMGM. Use that risk-free bet up to $1,000. Our promo code is Awesemo. And then you bet $10. We're going to give you 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum. As Ben said, we're back on Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll have a lot to look at from the NFL to college football. Maybe sneak in some. You never know what else will sneak in. It could be World Cup qualifiers when it comes to Rasa. You never know. We'll see you Friday. Thanks for riding with us. Go Birds. Go under.